A few weeks ago at the Birmingham GT, there was one list that caught my eye. Dom had created a fantastic Harlequins list, one that I hadn't really seen before. He called it, "Here we go sports fans, bikes, bikes, bikes." Luckily, he agreed to an interview to discuss his fantastic list. And I have to admit, I've been testing out elements of it recently, especially with the news of lower CP now, and his list still stands firm as a really good option, especially with Harlequins rerolls. I must apologise, the sound is slightly desynced from the video. It's just the way it was recorded. So here's Dom taking you through his army, how he put it together, and how he created this fantastic Harlequins list. Looking at your previous armies, you've played a lot of Dark Elder and Drukhari. Have you always focused on them and Elder and Harlequins, or have you been mixing in with Eldar as well?
Just last year was just Drukhari, and I finished up #1 in Europe for Drukhari.
That's
and
awesome.
Finished 23rd in the world, but all armies.
Wow.
So I did all right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
I managed to win a super major right at the end of the year. I think it's classed as super major. It was 120.
Wow.
Or 125. I think that sneaks over to that. If not, it's a major. But yeah, literally 2 weeks before the end of the season, managed to win one, and I was like, yeah.
That's great. Did you get what was your prize for that? Did you get a sword or anything like that?
I've actually got next to me. I've got this bloody Space Marine box.
Oh right.
Huge thing, but yeah, I'm a Chaos player as well, and I've got like an apocalypse-sized Chaos army, so I want to convert all of these really expensive heavy intercessors into Chaos Possessed.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, because I don't like Space Marines because they represent Games Workshop for me. So I'm always about Chaos and like Xenos armies.
So how come this last tournament? Obviously, we're talking about Bristol GT, which you did extremely well at. It's just one of those unfortunate things. There was one matchup that took it down for you, but the rest of them, it was like 95s across the board. And it was amazing to watch. And I have to admit, I kind of came across your army purely because, let me get the exact name right, because I had to share it with a few friends. Here we are, sports fans. Oh yeah, oh no. The clowns come to take your face off. Bikes, bikes, bikes.
Yeah, I like to put my sense of humor into stuff, because the one thing I hate about like when you get to like playing random people at events is there's always this bit of like, you both want to win, there's going to only be one winner, but everyone starts to be like, oh, like, hi, how are you? And then there's sometimes tense moments, but I'm just all about playing like really happy and like nice hammer. So if anyone ever plays me, I'm never going to gotcha them. I'm never going to ever like do anything like bad or like unsportsman at all. I'm always just happy, and I'm always trying to make it the most enjoyable experience as possible. Sometimes I forget rules and I have to look it up, and it's just like, oh yep, no, this is the rule. And
there are so many new rules, especially.
I know, and like even when I was against Vic in the game I lost, I was still like trying to keep it upbeat, because like you don't want to make the person who's beating you feel bad for beating you and getting all upset and everything.
But it wasn't an excessive loss. It wasn't like you ended up with no points or anything. You still did, well, I mean, maybe you're there in the actual situation and I'm looking at it on an app, so it's a different thing. But from the app scores, it looked like you still did all right,
Yeah. It was good. Like I screwed up my deployment, which was like the biggest thing. What I should have done is just put everything on the line and just said, kill what you can, and if you can't kill everything, then I'm rushing you. Which is what I should have done, because in the first turn I actually only lost 2 bikes. And
is that your 2? So on your list, as I'll put below, you have 2 naked bikes with nothing on them at all. Is that the 2 that got lost?
No, he basically put his swooping hawks like super close to me, and he just shot like all of them into me, and I got really lucky with my saves, and because it's -1 to wound and I made them -1 to hit, it was actually the math wasn't that great for killing them. Right. And then I got the 4-up invuln as well, so I actually only lost like 2 bikes, and really if I'd have put everything on the line, I would have still only lost 2 bikes, maybe a transport as well. So I should have just, lesson learned, if I come up against Hail of Doom again, because I was quite confident because I've beaten Hail of Doom a couple of times.
Is that kind of what his list is known as? I haven't seen his list named that.
Yes, it's what the Crawford is. So it's basically all 6s are exploding, and they auto wound, which is horrendous at AP. So I don't care about AP, but on like they're very good. So at like killing nids and everything. But yeah, that was kind of his thing. But his is like, my army is completely combat, and his army is the fastest shooting army ever. Yeah. So it basically bounces around the sides of the board, and you try and chase him, and you can't get him. But yeah, no, that was the only thing I kind of learnt from that, was like I should have just, because I tried to play a bit cagey because I wasn't sure how aggressive he would be, and he wasn't that aggressive. He was just a little bit feeding me some units here and there. But like, yeah, I should have just like absolutely yeeted my army at him, like, because I did that in every other game and it worked.
Right.
like my game 1. So do you want me to run through my list?
Please do. Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask some specifics about your list as well, if that was all right.
Yeah.
Just because I found the things I found really most fascinating while going through it were the fact you had your 2 naked bikes, which I'm assuming were a case of being able to just get to the deployment enemy zone ASAP, or take an objective as soon as you can. If they go, they go. That's just a penalty. That's just a cost. But also the fact that you had this really souped up melee death jester that that I can only imagine you had on a boat, and then if the boat blew up, he was in there just to kill everything. But also the fact that you had another naked death jester and another naked solitaire, which was, I mean, looking at a lot of army lists, I'm seeing more solitaires not run with a few things, but also interested to see why you chose that rather than giving him an ability to come in off the board 9 inches away and then just charge in at a target that's an issue. How have you found him being with nothing in kind of practice games and leading up to this?
So the one thing you got to realise with all of the characters that you eventually charge in. So for my list, it's the one Troupe Master, the buffed up Death Jester, and the Solitaire. They're the only ones that are going to come at you. For all of them, they die 100% the next turn, right, because they whatever they go into, they kill, and that there's no discussion. They kill it. And there's so
mortal wounds you've got going on.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and so they don't come at you all at once as well. So I trickle them in over the game, because the first one that goes in is always the Troupe Master, because no one expects it. Like in game 2 versus Thousand Suns, I got rid of Araman in 1 turn. I was just like, bang, you're dead.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and so I usually throw him first, then the Solitaire, and then the Death Jester just cleans up everything else. Yeah. So the reason why you don't give the Solitaire upgrades is because he's so expensive as it is. So to give him an upgrade that's worth it is probably the one that you can't, it gives him -1 to hit and you can't re-roll against him.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah,
that is, it's like 25 points, and it's really good if you want to keep him alive. But the way you play Harlequins, and to play Harlequins efficiently, you play them hella aggressive. And if someone gets hit by a Solitaire, they panic and go, "Oh my god, I need to kill that." So he won't last the turn after he gets in combat. So that's why, like, for points efficiency, he is going to die either from mortal wounds, weight of shots. So the reroll wounds -1 to hit isn't really worth it. And no one interrupts him because you have to go with them first, because he doesn't get the sedate, so he doesn't get like the fight and death.
Yeah, I was curious about that with but how you managed to kind of keep him hidden away enough. I know there's quite a good amount of terrain the tournament, especially compared to, like, I was just talking to a guy who was the Warhammer GT in America, and sorry, and there's like so little terrain. It's really a kind of massive difference. But you were able to kind of keep him hidden enough so he was able to come out at the last minute. Hence, I was thinking, like, I think it's 20. I have to look up what it's called. There's like a 20-point cost, and you can bring him on the board later, then give him like ridiculous amounts of charge. I have to find it.
yeah. So I know the one you're talking about. It's good, but the way you kind of like trade them in. So the Troupe Master either goes in first or second turn, and then what the Solitaire.
That's the one, I think.
Yeah, Princess is really good. But how you use the Solitaire, you put him into the mid board because he only blitzes once.
Yes.
And you need to get the range because you can roll really badly for a blitz, and it's almost not worth. If you're in your deployment zone, there's no point blitzing. So you need him in the mid board. So what I always used to do was get on an objective with 2 boats like this, and then him in the middle, and then I'll say to the opponent, my intention is here that he covers the whole of the objective with 6 inches. So if I need to heroic, I will. And then they're like, I'm not going near that because there's 2 boats full of troops with a Death Jester in each, and then there's a Solitaire, and that usually keeps them safe.
So you ran the Death Jester in both boats rather than leaving the naked one like at the back or anything.
Yeah, they're there to kill characters. Yeah. They're not there to be something cheap to set an objective. They're doing a job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I always ran him. And then the following turn, because they didn't kill him, he just yeets at you, and then he'll kill something. He's great into Marines, and that was the majority of the list I played against. He does kill a lot, but he's very, very fragile. So you need to be very careful with him because he's so expensive. But he's the only character we have in the Harlequins that has just a bucket load of attacks, because all the Troupe Masters and Death Jesters only have 6 attacks and 5 attacks. So it's really a case of, like, you're bringing him in the list to be volume somewhere. So if you come up against flayed ones, you want him to go in and just throw loads of attacks at them. If you're come up against like a whole like 10-man brick of Terminators, you just want to throw him into them because it's the weight of attacks trying to get through. So he is worth it. He is 100% worth the points. Just don't upgrade him
because he is.
Yeah, he will only last a turn because as soon as the Solitaire is revealed, he's dead.
And then how did you find the fully, like, I've seen Death Jesters with a lot of extras on them, but not actually the new form of Suit of Knives, because obviously the old form is slightly different, and the new one just adds the extra attacks. It was really, I said I've seen that on Troupe Masters before, but never a Death Jester.
He's better than he's probably the best combat character out of all of them. Really? And people are like, what? And I was just like, he's the one you need to worry about. And they're like, no, don't you be playing mind games with me. Definitely the Solitaire and definitely the Troupe Master. I was like, no, it's him. He is insane. Yeah. And I'm actually thinking about making him my Warlord for the next event, because you can make any character in your army your Warlord, just so I can give him foot in the future. Really? Yeah, he's
an extra step in, and
yeah. So the way to look at so everyone doesn't know what this Death Jester is. So he's got an upgrade called the Rift Ghoul, and what that means is in shooting and in combat, every 4+ to wound is a mortal wound. So he's great because he's a sniper, so you can sit there just pinging mortals all game, which is really good. And in my last game, he actually killed Drazar in one go, which was huge.
Just from the mortal wound ability. Wow.
Yeah, I shot in, did like 4 mortal wounds, and then I think that was it. Yeah, I did some psychic into him, did a couple of mortal wounds, and then he just pinged him off with like 3 mortal wounds, which was great. But so he's got that, which is Rift Ghoul, so that works in combat and shooting, and he's got a sniper rifle, so it's always really good for combat. Then I gave him the relic called the Suit of Hidden Knives. So what that means is that after you fought, you roll 3 dice, and for every hit you get, it's just a mortal wound. So that's really good, but it only works in combat. So it's just very, very good.
And you just need to get him in there then, really.
Yeah. So already you have 5 attacks, and you know, let's say you get 4 hits, then you roll to wound, you get three 4-ups, let's say. So that's 3 mortal wounds. Then you hit on a 2+, so your other 3 are going to hit as well. So that's 6 mortal wounds in combat. Okay, but before then you've already shot the mortal wounds into them. So that, let's say that's, you know, 7 mortal wounds I've just done on that one unit. So now I've given him the Player of Dark, okay, which is the Warlord trait, which means that every 5+ to wound in combat is a mortal wound. So every 5 and 6 is actually 2 mortal wounds rather than 1. So on average, you're doing about, in a turn, you can do about 10 mortal wounds.
It's kind of, that's...
It's not broken, but no. It's just because you have to set it up, and it
has to have a lot of stuff on it. He's not cheap to do that, you know.
Yeah, and this is all in addition to his normal attacks, which are AP2 because it's dark. And the most hilarious thing about it is when you tell people what he does, then they go, "Cool, I'll like interrupt the combat," and I'm just like, "He'll attack you anyway because he's dark." And he's just so good to just be like, "Oh, I see the Canoness over there. Bang, she's dead." Because she'll shoot first, and then he'll go in and just kill her. So he is like he's my favorite out of all of the characters, just because it's just a lot of mortal wounds that come out of him.
Yeah.
And you can get really lucky on luck dice, and you can get really lucky with like rerolls and stuff. And he's just solid. But the way I play him, for 2 turns I'll keep him beat, and he kind of mops up what's left. And he's just really good. Then the other Death Jester is plain, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But he's just there as a triple threat, like a double threat with the snipers, because people play differently when the sniper's on the board, and it makes assassinate so easy. Really does. Like, so
are you taking assassinate kind of as many games as you could?
No. I only did it against Drukhari because I'm a Drukhari player. I knew all the characters.
You know how that's running.
Yeah. So that's the funky Death Jester. That's the normal Death Jester. That's the Solitaire, and then the Troupe Master. We'll go through the Troupe Master. So he was my Warlord. I don't know if I'll make him a Warlord again because I would like to have the Death Jester as the Warlord because just to give him a double Warlord trait. But I gave him the 3 damage relic with the reroll wounds, which is really good, and the Foot in the Future, which just
that's the kiss with the Cegorach. I can't say it, but.
Yeah. I can never pronounce it. Yeah, he's really good. But the reason why it's good is because he's got the real wounds. He can go up against like nids and things. And he's great. He's a one-trick pony as well. He just goes in, kills something, or damages something, and then he dies. All of the characters are the same. They go in, they die. So you need to cycle them per turn. Yeah. The reason why he's so good is you put him on he put his boat on the line, and then he goes 3 out of the boat. Then he moves. Then he advances his extra bonuses to advancing. So he goes quite far, but he gets +6 to his charge.
Yes.
And in 2 games, I actually deep strike him. So he can just get like a 3-inch charge coming out of deep strike.
Oh, very nice.
Which is, people don't expect it, and they can't screen out the tiny little base.
What armies were you playing that one against?
I did that against, I think it was Thousand Suns I did it. No, that wasn't Thousand Suns. It was definitely Drukhari because I took out 2 Grotesques with him, and I was very happy with that. Yeah, and then the person that's droppable is the Shadowseer. But if you could get, he's literally only in the list to give -1 aura to wound to the bikes, because the bike's the most important thing in the list. But like,
were you keeping it with kind of both sets? Because you have the 2 naked and then the 2 sets of 5 that like fully buffed. And actually I was really surprised to see that you didn't even put one of them with a star bolos to kind of just save 5 points here, 10 points overall kind of thing. You were like, no, all 10 of them are getting fully buffed.
Yeah, I was just like, well, I looked at the list, and originally it was four sets of 4, and I was like, that's good. That's the best. It gives me threat saturation. Then I played some test games, and I was like, I need something that can get into the deployment zone turn 1 other than the Troupe Master. How do I do it? And I was like, bolas, just a unit of 2 bolas fire and fading, then that gets me 5 points every single turn, because it gets me my deadly performance, and it gets me behind enemy lines. And I was like, for like 90 points, that's 5 points turn 1 guaranteed, and points win games, so 100%. And it means that if they're kind of backboarded, I don't have to sacrifice my bikes going into like awkward situations, and I can just get them ready. But yeah, for the listeners, I know they've got the list down below, but let me just say it. So it's a Shadowseer, a Troupe Master, then 6 Troupe. 4 of them are buffed up with all the weapons. 2 are just naked with blades. Then it's double Jester, Solitaire, 2 squads of 5 haywire bikes with zephryglaives, then 2 Skyweavers with star bolas, and then 4 transports. That's it. But yeah, going back to the star bola bikes, I think if you're a Harlequins player and you're not going the full like 15 bikes or whatever, I think the star bola bikes are perfect because they're just utility. Like against, I think every single game, they were in the deployment zone turn 1 just to get me 5 points.
Right.
Every single game, and then.
And did you use? Were you charging to get that in, or were you using the Shadowseer's abilities to jump them slightly further?
Well, they go far as it is because.
Oh no, I realise they can go quite far. because
they advance 22, and then I mean you're either in the range of like a charge, or you can usually just get in with some janky fire and fades from the bolas.
Cool.
Because they're assault.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so you go 29 inches. No, 29, 27. No, yeah, 29. You go 29 inches, which is, you can't hide from that, and I just go through you, so it's absolutely fine. So they are the 2 bikes are probably one of the most important things in the list, but my next list is for London Open. I'm probably thinking about going 18 bikes.
Wow. So going
bikes are literally insane, and loads of like everyone like just says, oh, they're overcosted, they die really easy, but they're just so good in dark.
Well, the thing now as well is that even adding, let's say, 1 haywire to it, it's the same cost as bringing a transport. And if you've got 2 shurikens, they're very comparable in terms of points and everything else. It's just they've got a few other abilities.
Yeah. So I actually think you just don't take any haywire. And I know every game I played someone with vehicles, and every game I was like, oh, they're just not worth it. And then I go, but why are they not worth it? It's because I'm always in combat. I never use them because I'm always just flying at you. So I only used the haywire once, and that was against a Redemptor Dreadnought, and I whiffed, and I was like, not again. Not again. But then
you're just going to bring shurikens next time, but with the zephryglaives.
Yeah, because the fusions are fine. I literally whiffed with a big haywire unit. I had to set up this really big play to get like loads of buffs in range. Did it, whiffed. Then 2 fusion pistols, just some Troupe killed a Redemptor, and I was like, 10 points versus like 300 points. Like you thought the 300 points would pop it, but it didn't. But yeah, I just think take all the guns off and just keep it shuriken, because Eldars are horrible and so are Nids. Like armor contempt, you can just deal with by bullying them, because you can with Quins. Like I played Grey Knights game 1, and
Grey Knights, yeah.
So a lot of people think that's a hard matchup because it's load of shots with bolters. They can teleport everywhere, and it's just power armor, right? So it's hard. But in my game, and if my opponent's listening, he will agree to everything I say here. The game ended turn 1 because I managed to get first turn, and the bikes go so fast along the sides. I phantasm to the sides, so I always deploy hidden, and then I phantasm out, and I just yeeted these 2 squads of bikes, and then I got 2 charges, and I managed to kill. And the Troupe Master managed to get in as well turn 1, and I managed to kill 5 interceptors on the side, 5 interceptors on the side, and then his strikes and his home objective. But in his turn, he had to put everything into them and then charge them, kill another 5 interceptors and another 5 strikes. And so turn 1, he at the end of his turn 1, he had almost no infantry left, and he had like 3 dreadnoughts. It's because of the fight on death when he charged me, and it was just they just batter Marines like they really do. And like I think if Armor of Contempt wasn't the thing, you would 100% be in light, because light is just better. But because of Armor of Contempt, you need the extra AP and you need the fight and death. And it's so frustrating to play against, because people charge you and then you die, but then they die. Yeah. And it's just really good. But no, bikes are just like my MVPs of every game.
It's really interesting to see how they've suddenly come up. So I know that you were at the tournament, you were associated with the Vanguard Tactics team. How long have you been playing with them as a team rather than like your own group thing? Because I know with your logo in the background, obviously, want to push that as well.
Yeah. So last season, because we only had 6 months of a season because of like how COVID was in the UK. So and it was like the Drukhari meta. Luckily, I'm from a Drukhari podcast called Real Space Raiders, and we are like Drukhari experts because all we talk about is Drukhari. And I managed to I didn't even attempt to like at the start of the season, like the start of our season, be like, right, that's it, I'm gonna become #1 Drukhari, whatever. I just kind of just did it, and I just kept like going to events, winning them, going to events, like placing high, and I just kept doing all these different things. It was nice. It was great, obviously. But yeah, at the end of the season, I was like, maybe I could join a team. Like, obviously, it's nice to get the Real Space Raiders, that team going, but I doubt Drukhari will be that good next year because of all the nerfs we've had. Like, we've had 5 nerfs now. And so, I'll try and like reach out to a few people, see if anyone's like recruiting any like players. And then I was starting my new YouTube channel called Let's Talk Wargaming. And my first guest was the one that was recorded was Steam Box, and I was like, I'm looking for a team. Like, if you hear anything on the ground, just let me know. And he was just like, mate, join us, join Vanguard. We'd love it because we've been at events like with each other. I'm really good friends with Ben Jones and a couple of others there.
Nice.
Like we'd always like be really friendly at events, and they've always known how I play. I always play like very, like I said, like very fun Warhammer, but like trying to be very high level as well.
But that's what they stand for as well. Like there's
exactly,
yeah,
exactly that. So he was very happy that I was looking to join a team, and yeah, I've done all right this season. I've won one event with Harlequins, won one event with one day at Hellstorm Wargaming, and I was on stream for two games, which is quite fun. You can watch it on there. Then I won a 1-dayer in Brighton with Drukhari, a 2-dayer in Luton with Drukhari, and then I think there's another one somewhere. There must be.
there's a few online when you have a look. Yeah. So something I really wanted to ask you as well was, I know they can operate better in light, but how come you chose not to go for like any Void Weavers at all, even though they're currently seen as, I know they're very expensive, so that may be your whole reason, but against kind of custodies or big nids at the moment, the choice to take none at all was kind of interesting, when most of the other lists that went to Bristol and a few other tournaments around will often bring at least 2.
Well, they're just not worth it. they're just literally not worth it. Like people are like still bringing them, and I keep looking at all of them. I just go, why are you taking Void Weavers? It's like, yes, but like the gun is actually not very good, right? Compare it to a Dark Lance, okay, which is D3 plus 3 damage. So the minimum you're going to get hit by is a 4 damage or maximum 6. Mm-hmm. Void Weavers, right? They are 2d3 damage. You can get minimum 2 or maximum 6. So they're not as good as a Dark Lance. Right. So I prefer spamming fusions and bikes because I come from Drukhari, so I'm very I like playing aggressive like plays, and yeah, I just like obviously Void Weavers were a massive meta, but that's because you could just spam them and they were so cheap.
Yes,
but at 130 they're just not worth it because you get loads of shuriken anyway with your transports, and the big gun itself is probably not worth the extra points. Like,
because I suppose just having that extra gun is about 40 points to bring it, essentially on its own. Yeah,
and it's only got 6 wounds. This is the thing. It's only 6 wounds when you could I'm just not a big fan. Not a big fan.
Fair enough. I said it was more a case of even now you're still seeing at least 2 in most armies. So I think it's you and Steve Box have kind of just don't touch them.
Yeah, well, I did when I was at Hellstorm Wargaming, I did have 5 in my list, and they were very good. But I actually came away from that event being like, bikes are so good, and I was just like, they're so much better than voids, and it's bikes are insane in light because they get to shoot at you and then kill you, so they can shoot your screen and then hit you, so they're really, really good. But yeah, I played that event, and it's not like I'm boycotting voids because I did actually have 2 on my list before I changed 2 for another 5 bikes.
Right.
So there's more wounds in bikes, and you can make them -1 to hit like them. I know they both turn off rerolls, but then they hit like a truck, and they also are -1 to wound, and you can double move them. You can give them Fin of Pains, all these different things. Yeah, but I mean, have 1 squad of voids in your list is quite good because they can sit on your home objectives, just hammering away at stuff. But I just don't think. I think bikes play better into the meta. Is just how I looked at it.
No, I think it's really great insight, and it was just really interesting to hear your thoughts around that. As I said, because there are so few who are not at the moment, so to see someone doing so well at the tournament and not taking it, I think will change how the next ones come up and how that's being viewed. So yeah, no, it's really interesting.
Bikes are scary as well. When people are like, oh, so how fast can they go? I was like 22. Okay, so that's called 22. And can you charge? I was like, yes. Oh, so the deployment zones are only 24. Oh God.
Yeah.
It's so funny. But they do bounce sometimes. I charged a unit of grotesques and they killed 1, and then they killed me back, and I was like, right, that wasn't a good trade. But then they'll charge a unit of terminators, and they'll kill half of them, and you just need to. It's just learning how to be efficient with them. But I honestly think that they are the fit in the future Troupe Master, the Mortal Wound Death Jester, and the bikes are just very, very, very good, and they're above everything else.
That's brilliant.
In Codex, anyway. If anyone wants to see me chat to random people as well, and it's basically I interviewed some of the personalities in 40K. So last week we had Manny Chima, and this week we've got Zach, who puts on the events for the UKTC. So that's what. Yeah, it's a really interesting one. That's on. I'll be on YouTube and Spotify on Let's Talk Wargaming, and then I've got a Drukhari podcast called Real Space Raiders, where we chat everything Drukhari and a bit of Harlequins. Because on my next event, I'm going to play dark Harlequins with Drukhari. So
nice, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and then we'll see. It might be light Harlequins because I want loads of bikes.
No chance for